Hi everyone, welcome back to CrochetRocks and this beginner's course. So this is part 2. In part 1 we did getting started. We talked about hooks and yarn, and we talked about tension, and we made a chain. So there are 21 chain here, and so we're going to have 20 stitches and a turning chain of 1. So we have our 21, and I'm going to show you in this video how to do a UK double crochet, which is not to be confused with a US double crochet. In the US this is called a single crochet. Now that is one thing you've really got to be careful of when you're watching YouTube videos, that they might be in UK terms or US terms, and some people like myself will give you both, but sometimes they don't. So you really just have to kind of watch out, and you can see the difference. Now my videos will be done in right-handed and left-handed versions, so they always watch out to make sure you have the right one. And I will put, there's like a little strip that will appear up here that will tell you if you want the right-handed one, you click on it. If you want the left-handed one, you click on it. So don't worry too much if you're getting the wrong one. There's always an out. Okay, so now we've got our chain, and this one here, this is our loop on the hook. This one here is our turning chain, because this particular stitch has a turning chain of 1. We're going to go into this one. So you've got your loop on the hook, doesn't count. That's our first one. This is our second. So all we're going to do, and I'm going to keep my tension as I did before by just trapping my yarn between these two fingers, and I'm going to put my hook in that second one from the hook, and I'm going to go in, I'm going to yarn over and pull up a loop. So I have 2 on my hook now, and I'm going to yarn over and pull through both of those loops that are on my hook, and that is how we do the stitch. So when you're first learning, everything looks kind of odd. Now we've been in this chain, you can see that the stitch is coming out of it. Here is our next one. We're just going to put our hook in, okay, just through one of the loops. Some people go through 2, and some people go through the back bumps, but that's, you don't need to worry about that now. If you ever look at a tutorial and it tells you to go through the back loops, you don't have to. You can go through this one. So you just put your yarn around your hook and pull it through again. We have 2 on our hook, yarn over, and we pull through both. Okay, and there you can see this is the one we've just gone in, and here is our next one. Again, we're going to just insert the hook, and we're going to yarn over and pull it through. Be careful not to make it too baggy at this stage, or you will lose sight of where you're going. I've got my tension, yarn over and pull through both. So this is the foundation row, always the hardest one, because you're going into the chain. It does get a lot easier. So there we are, we're in this one. Don't worry if yours is baggier at this stage. It really doesn't matter. You will get better at holding it all. So we're going to insert, yarn over, pull up the loop, yarn over and pull through both. It's very simple, this stitch, nice and easy. Now what I do, because this is becoming longer, I just trap it in my fingers, but obviously you don't have to do that. So here we are, that's the one we've been in. This is the one we're going into next. We're going to yarn over, pull up, yarn over, pull through 2. And there's the next one. You can see the top V there. If you're looking, you can get a little confused. That's why I always try to go in just the top loop, and then you can see where you're going. See? Quite simple. If you're holding it, if you're holding where you've got to go, always just hold it there, and you can see the stitch you're going into, because you're hiding the other one. It's out of your sight, therefore easier to go in the right one. And that is basically this stitch, and it's a nice little stitch, often used when you're doing a border of a blanket or something like that. So there we go, we can just go into the next one. Now this is, I feel, going to be a little bit boring, just going all the way along here. So I'm going to do a couple more with you. Just go into the next one, yarn over and pull it up, yarn over and pull through. One more into the next one and pull through. Okay, so I'm going to pause the video now and I'm going to complete this row, and I will catch up with you when I get to this one. Okay, but all you need to do is carry on and I'll catch up with you there. Okay, so here we have our line of crochet, and I'm just going to hold on to that. Sometimes when you do this stitch it will curl a little bit. Don't worry about that, you're not doing anything wrong, it's just because it's a small stitch. So I've got 2 left. There's the one before the end, and now I'm going to go in the very last one. This is my knot from my slip knot, not a stitch, and that's my last one. So now I'm going to turn my work around, so we're working this way, and when you want to go in the next stitch you can quite clearly see these V's on top. So we do 1 chain to turn. Now because I don't want to confuse that as a stitch, I make it smaller by pulling on this yarn and cinching it down just a little bit, because I'm going to go into this very first stitch with this particular stitch. Some stitches we go into this one if they're taller, but with this one we're going in the first stitch, so I don't want that chain to be confused, so I cinch it down a little bit. Okay, so now we're going to go into this stitch. You can see the holes that we're going to go into, but if you get confused at any time, if you turn it over you can see these V's, and that's what we're going into. We're going through those 2 stitches on top, that V. That's the one on my hook, and you can see there's the V. We're going to yarn over, pull up that loop, yarn over, pull through both. So we're going back to that very same stitch again, and you can see there that's where we're going into here. And if you turn it you can see you're going through those 2 V, that V with those 2 stitches, yarn over and pull through. So we're just repeating what we're doing, but it's easier now. There's no chain to kind of get confused by. The stitch is nice and visible, and you can tell you're going in the right one because you're going through those 2 loops. If I go too fast, don't worry, there's plenty of stitches to go. Okay, so we're going through both of those, yarn over, pull up, yarn over, through 2. That is as simple as it gets with this stitch. Nice and easy. Okay, so that's what we're doing now. We're going backwards, and this would be the back of our work, and there is the front of our work. Okay, so just remember you can keep your tension tight or loose by holding it here. I just hold on to this part of my work which keeps it the tension, and I can just control how much I pull with this hand or this hand. That controls my tension. So go into the next stitch. We've got both loops. You can see there, move the yarn out of the way. And we're going to go through all of these stitches all the way to the end. Nice and simple. Now it doesn't matter how much you want to practice this. You know, if some people think, right, I've got that, thanks very much, I know what I'm doing. But when I was a child and my mum taught me, I would do maybe 4 inches and then we'd move on to the next stitch. I'm not going to sit here and do 4 inches of this with you because I think you'd get bored long before we got there. But if you want to go and practice, just carry on. You can make more chain and turn it into a scarf if you wanted to. Just make sure you've got enough yarn. But I always think it's better to get used to 1 stitch before you move on to the next. So get this one, get your tension working for you. Okay, so we're getting to the end now. We've got 1 more stitch left. And there, that little bump is the turning chain I cinched down. So you can see it's not a stitch. There is our last one. We're just going to go in there. Now it looks a little different, but there are the 2 loops. It's just because it's at the end. Okay, so we're going to go through that one and we're going to do 1 chain. Again, I'm going to cinch it down a bit so it doesn't get confused. And now I'm going to go back the other way, just as before. Now you can see the way you've got to go into. They actually do look, you can see the holes. If you've kept your tension tight, you might not see a hole there, but you can still see where it's got to go. And as I said before, we're going in this first one on this stitch. Nice and leisurely, don't try to rush. Just go in, you've got your 2 loops that you've gone into. And keep going. And that's as simple as it gets. But it's good to practice just keeping your tension or trying to get your tension to be equal. Remember, by just closing those fingers slightly, you've got complete control over both this one and this one. You can just move it in. Okay, so that is all you'd have to do. And when we end off, I will show you how we end. What on earth is that piece of grass? I don't know how that got there. I washed the table. Oh well, how strange. Okay, so we'll go on and we'll get to the end. If I go too fast, then just pause it by all means. But don't feel like you have to speed up. You can just, that's the beauty of video. You just pause me if I gallop ahead. Okay, so we're nearly at the end. Now you can carry on for as many rows as you want to practice this and your tension. Now remember, this is the last stitch, that little bump being my turning chain. I've gone through 3 there, see that? It's quite easy to do. So just make sure you go through the 2 loops, there they are, and you yarn over, pull it up and finish your stitch. So just imagine now that we've got, see what I mean about the curling of this stitch? It does do that sometimes because it is a short stitch. So all we do when we want to end off is 1 chain, pull it to cinch down, snip the yarn off and pull it through. And then you can just pull that and tighten it off. I don't really want to do that because I want to use this yarn again for my next one. So I don't really want to do that. But again, I'll show you what we do when we want to end off. I've already done the chain, so let's get out of that. Okay, so to end off, we make a chain. And then we can just, using this one here, pull it down. And you pull the yarn and holding this, you can pull it down and cinch it off. We cut this, but make sure you've got a knife. Once you're doing an actual product, that you do leave a long enough tail to sew the end in. And then you just pull it out and then tug it. And it will stay nice and tight. So that's how you do a UK double crochet or a US single crochet. Make sure you do enough rows to practice it and to practice getting your tension right. And I'll see you on the next video, and we'll do a half treble crochet, which in the US is called a half double crochet.